this is Carrie Canary Quilt, and we are working on the Dear Jane Quilting on row D this week. If you're new here, I have done the entire Dear Jane Quilt, and you can find that on my YouTube channel under the playlist for Dear Jane, and now we're starting the quilting, and I'm using EQ8. So, just to recap here, we need to open the Dear Jane, it's up here in the left-hand corner, quilting center blocks, that's where I'm working. And then I am just opening the sketchbook, and down here it tells you in the note card what block you're looking at, and I'm going to just go through D1 and I just look at it and then transfer it to my quilt with friction pens, which are heat erasable. So that's all I've been doing. It seems to be working well so far, and one of the main rules I have is I'm not going to quilt through my applique. I will quilt around it. So if I come across any, blocks that have applique, like this one, I will not do the X in the middle. It's just kind of that simple rule I have. And there have been a few blocks where I've stitched in the ditch instead of stitching right outside or something like that, which I don't think takes away from it. So there you go. That's all I've been doing, is just following the sketchbook, transferring it by looking at it. So sometimes I have to do a little bit of math for myself and transferring the lines over and then quilting it. So there you go. It's pretty easy. Let me know how you're doing it, if you're doing it that way, or if you have a different way of doing it. You could print these out, but I am not going to do that. I think it's much simpler to look at the design and then just transfer it on my own. So, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Check out my Dear Jane YouTube playlist. I did 5 blocks a week in 2024, and it took about a year to finish. So, it was fun. Let me know how it's going for you, and let's get started on our quilting. All right, we're on row D of the Dear Jane Quilt Along quilting. Just a reminder that I do go through all my setup in the first one in row A. If you want to check that out, I do have a link to that in the description down below. And you can see how I'm all set up here to do the quilting. But to get started on row D, just like the rest of them, I'm going to draw my quilting out, starting with D1, and then I'm going to work down the D row, and that's how I'm going to quilt. I'm going to push it through my quilt that way for now, until maybe it gets too difficult, I don't know, but it seems to be working well that way. So I've got it suspended off to the left here where you can't see, so that's not going to bother me, and then I'm kind of rolling it up over here to help it so I don't have to fight with it. But anyway, to get started on row D, we have a square. She likes that. Out here, lines down the middle of all these white pieces, and then a line in here, in between all of these. So I'm going to get the first one drawn. It looks to be about 1/4 inch. So that's what I'm doing. And this is erasable with heat. And if you're new here, when I get done quilting row D, I'll come back and use my iron and get rid of all these lines. I do have different color friction pens I could use too. Alright, so the lines on the inside, basically going to make V's right here. So, I don't think it's 1/2 inch. How about 3/8? Looks like 3/8 of an inch from right here, this seam would be about halfway. So I'm going to draw a line like that. Doesn't come to our line in the center. And then right here. So I'm going to do that on all of these. All right, so remember we had the square on the outside, inside the white, and then these V's here. Okay, that's D1. So D2 has, like, I call it echo quilting on the inside here, like this. I'm doing this so I can keep myself hopefully at about the same distance in all of them. And then there is quilting from this point. I'm going to put a blue dot there to this point, and this point to this point in between. Does not go to the end. Then there seems to be about 1/8 of an inch above, right here is a square with that triangle, this line, 1/8 of an inch above that line. About 1/8 of an inch into here, in all of these corners, I should say. I'm going to be like, Carrie, what's a these? It's a corner. These corner triangles. And then about halfway between those. So that is 1 inch, so 1/2 inch. It's 1 1/4. So 5/8. Let's do 5/8. And again, you don't have to do 5/8. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't seem to say. There's half, so 5. I'm just looking at the picture. All right, there we go. That one's drawn out. Next one is an applique. So let's see what she wants to do. Okay, she does go through her applique from corner to corner. I'm not going to do that. But she just follows around it about that far away. I'm not going to draw it all out, but that's what I'm going to do, is just go around my entire applique like this. And then she does have like a triangle that comes down like this. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do this all the way around and put these triangles in. Okay, that's pretty simple. More applique. Okay, she does have us go through the applique. I am not going to do that. So this is where I would go through the applique. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it inside here. And then I'm going to go around my applique. And then these points. And these points. So she does have like lines here in each one of these triangles. And then lines out here. So one's coming through here, just on the outside at that point. So let's do this point. Actually, we can do it down here too. And she does have another line that's about 1/2 inch that goes right here. And I'm also going to go around my applique. So lots of lines going on here. I'll show them to you again when we come back to it and we're actually quilting it. Okay, we're on D5. Keep forgetting to say the name, or at least the number. Again, we've got a square in here. All right, there's the square. And then inside this dark square, we've got all the lines, corner to corner, and then down the centers. We're just going to take some lines out here. I think I'll do a 1/2 inch out here and do 2. She has 3, I'm doing 2. D6. Okay, I know for sure we're going to have lines down the center of these white strips. And then we have one in the center, but only in the center block. 1.5, 2 inches. 2 inches divided by 1/2 would be 4. So we should get 4 lines. Looks like it. So let's go every 1/2 inch. And there are lines up here, about 1/4 inch into these triangles. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, she has 7. I have 7. So D7. I can tell you we have vertical lines. That's where we're going to start. Both ways. We have this and this. Then we have lines that come right inside and meet that line. I'm not measuring, but probably about 1/8 inch. And the last one is over here. And then pretty much halfway in these triangles, right inside the triangles. That should be about 1/4 inch from this seam right there. About 1/8 inch into the white. This is going to be interesting. This one will be interesting. Okay, there we go. Again, I'll remind you of that one. This one, I am going to guess I will just be stitching around the applique. Yep, that's exactly what she did. All right, so I'm just stitching around the applique on this one. That's D8, I think. All right, D9. Whew, there is a lot of stitching on this one. A lot of stitching. So from pretty much like point to point. So I'm going to get just every point here. I'm going to give it a line this way and then also the other way. Okay, there's those. Now we're going to go this way. Okay, So we've got a grid going on the inside here. She does echo quilt out here around the whole thing, like this. So there is a lot of quilting on this one. Whew, that's going to take a little bit of time. All right, the next block. It's fun to see what she does. What's going to be next? It's also fun because I don't have to think about it. I just have to draw it. I don't have to become creative on every one of these. All right, I know for sure there will be a line down the middle or down the diagonal. Put squares in this. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'll do that. I don't know that I like the way it looks. Okay, she pretty much has lines on all these seams. Okay, I think that's what she's doing. I don't like how that looks. I might erase it. Let's see if I can do better. That looks better. All right, pretty much following the seams. Okay, this is interesting. So she actually has seams that come down here. I'm just gonna draw a seam because what she does is she kind of like echo quilts around all of this. So this is how we're going to quilt around all of this into the corner, and then we'll come over here into this corner, come up and around, and then we'll just pretend there's a seam there. Just so you have an idea of what she wants, or what she did. Okay, that's how she did the outside. Then she came on the inside here and did a square. And then she stitched in the ditch here and here. And then she put a triangle I got a seam or something going on in there inside each of these. I'm going to draw it. I'm going to make a decision at game time if I'm going to put that in there. And she also has triangles coming down in here. So, a lot of different stuff going on. Okay, that'll be interesting. And another applique. We're almost done. Okay, D12. She goes through the applique. I'm not going to do that. She does have this down the center and this one down the center. And then instead of going through the applique, I'm going to go around it like I have been. And our last one, a square and a square. Okay, so she has a grid inside here. So 3/4 and 3/4. I think that would work. Let's try that. 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, and then we do it this way. And then she comes out here. So I'm going to come out here a 1/2 inch twice. Okay, all my guidelines. All right, we got some quilting to do. So let me get set up. Ready to quilt our D row. Remember, this one has a square around the outside and inside all these white strips, and then it does have these V lines. I know I can hardly see them, so I know you can't see them. So that's what I'm going to get started doing. There we go. All right, let's head out. Move on to the next one. Okay, this one, I'm going to go around, do the outside, then come to the inside and work. All right, I'm going to work my way down a seam, and stitch in the ditch. Okay, this one is where we're going around, so I'm going to come in here and come down and start that. Now I've got to do the triangles. I'm going to come back out. Alright, there we go. Now on to the next one. Okay. This one, I need to stitch around my applique and then come down these lines. So I think I'm going to stitch around the applique and then come down here, stitch, and then start doing the lines. See how that goes. I don't think I'm going to do those triangles in the triangle. I think what I'm going to do is just stitch around the square. There, I like that. Okay, let's head back out of this one. This one is the lines, the square, and then we've got crisscross lines on the inside. So okay, I'm just going to come down these seams to get to that inside. All right, this is the one. We do have some lines halfway down these triangles, down the white strips, and then right down in the middle here. So I'm just going to start following those lines. There you go. That's all there is to that one. I do concentrate pretty hard when I'm doing this. Start clenching my teeth, and so this has the lines that come here. So I think I'll follow those. There we go. Got that one done. So follow seam allowances out. The next one, I am just gonna go around all my applique. Okay, so let's head on out, follow our last seam, and I'll just come up here. Whew, now we got the one that has lots of lines in it. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Let's go down a seam and start. Okay, I think I'll just start right here, and I think I need to finish this. I'll just start here, and I'll start going this way. There we go, there's our grid. Whew. Let's get up here to a seam allowance, a seam, and out. And we got another grid down here. All right, there we go. Gave myself a little more quilt to work with. All right, there we go. Got all the lines in that one, so Okay, the interesting one. Let's start by doing our outlines here. All right, I'm going to come back and do these triangles. Okay, I need to get down into here, do the square and the stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to follow this seam. I ran out of bobbin thread. All right, new bobbin, and I've tested it. My needle's down. All right, I'm going to head down in the middle and do that square. Okay, so she has triangles in here, but you know what? I like how they're kind of poofing out, so I don't think I want to quilt those down. So I am not going to. All right, I'm done with that one. I can head on out, find some seams. Okay, this one was stitching around the applique in the center. So since I'm here, I'm going to stitch around the applique. There we go. On to the last block, which again is just a bunch of lines. So I'm going to follow, excuse me, the lines. Now I'm going to come back here and stitch in the ditch around the square. And stitch the line. And there we go. I'm gonna do a lock stitch right there. And look at that, we're done. I'm gonna take my gloves off and we can iron these lines off and see what it looks like. I'm towards the end of the day, so I'm glad I'm done. I think I'm starting to get off a little, so I can start fresh again tomorrow morning. Maybe my lines will look a little better. But I also find out that a lot of times things just don't look good when I'm staring at them this close, and when then I come back the next day and look at it and go, oh, look at that. That's so pretty. And that's probably what will happen tomorrow. I'll come back and go, oh, what was I thinking? I really like it. It's pretty. I was too hard on myself. I mean, when your face is right, face is right there on the 4.5 inches, you're like, that's all wrong. But when you stand back and look at the whole thing in perspective, you know, it looks good. All right, let's get these ironed off. This one just looks like a mess with all those lines. But when the lines come off, it looks so much better. So how's your Dear Jane going? You just watching? Are you quilting? Did you use EQ8? Are you just trying to figure out if you want to do Dear Jane? It's quite the accomplishment. I would say, I don't know, when I did it 5 blocks a week, it really kind of broke it down nicely into chunks, just like quilting here. You're just breaking it down into 4.5 inch chunks, and it takes away that whole big quilt. thinking about the whole big quilt at once. And that's how it was when we just did 5 blocks in a row, or in a week. Just broke it right down. And then all of a sudden, we were done. Well, after a year, we were done. Anybody gonna wash their quilt? I know some people wash their quilt afterwards. It just kind of shrinks everything up around the stitches, gives it more of a pinched in look around those stitches. I like it. I don't know if I'll wash it, but I like that look. All right, there we go. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it's going for you. Let me know if you're thinking about it. Just let me know. And I appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you can see this when it ends. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.